welcome to One Take Tips, Tricks, and Dishes, where we will talk today about how to make fluffy, flaky buttermilk biscuits. I am no stranger to the frustration that comes along with trying to figure out the secret to Grandma's famous biscuits and how they were always so fluffy and tender coming out of the oven. I spent about a year and a half feeding those special to me hockey pucks that were flavored like biscuits until I found out the secret, and I'm excited to share it with you. I actually was desperate, browsing along through the internet, and I kept seeing cold flour, cold buttermilk, and I thought, okay, there's something to this. Cold out of the refrigerator apparently isn't good enough. So I started experimenting with different levels of coldness with my biscuit recipe. So to get started today, what you're going to need for your fluffy, flaky buttermilk biscuits is 2 cups of very cold self-rising flour. I actually just keep my bag of flour in the freezer now, and it's super handy. You're going to want 1/4 cup of diced up butter. You're going to want that very cold as well. And 3/4 of a cup of very cold buttermilk. Usually whenever I start making my biscuits, I'll go ahead and pour the buttermilk out in the measuring cup and stick it on in the freezer and let that just sit there while I'm getting everything else ready. And you'll need just a little bit extra melted butter for dusting the pan and then dusting the biscuits once you put your biscuits in the pan. So let's just go ahead and get started. You're going to want kind of a big bowl because you're going to be in here working with the flour. So again, your 2 cups of cold self-rising flour, your 1/4 cup or half a stick of butter. There we go. And then you'll just jump right in there and just start working the butter into your flour. You'll, fill the diced up butter in there, grab it in your hand with a handful of flour and just work it between your hands until it kind of, looks like little pebbles in there. You're just going to want to work that really well. In the interest of time, I already have a bowl ready for that. Typically, once I work the flour and butter, if I've not had a chance to cool the butter or the flour, I'll just stick it in the freezer for about 5 minutes after I work it up. So here I've got my very cold flour and butter, and you just make a little well right in the middle of your bowl. Just kind of push the flour off to the side so your buttermilk can just sit right on the bottom, and just pour your buttermilk right in. I usually use a spatula to blend the flour into the buttermilk. You can just work it from the side and toward the center where your buttermilk is. Just mix it up really well. I would like to kind of dedicate this episode to my grandmother, Betty. She's my Bama is what I call her. I couldn't say Gruh when I was little, so she became Bama. And she's taught me so much about the kitchen and cooking, and this was actually one thing that I was able to pass to her, so I was pretty happy about that. Okay, so once you got it mixed up pretty well, it's going to be pretty shaggy. And what I mean by shaggy is, kind of sticky. The flour may still be a little flaky, and that's okay. That's to be expected. So once you have a dough ball kind of mixed up with your flour, you're going to turn it out on your floured surface. I just use the countertop. I mean, for me it's quick and simple and easy. The dough picks most of the flour back up, so there's not an incredible mess to clean up, but you do start with a mess. So again, if you have a pastry sheet or something like that you typically roll your stuff out on, just go for it. And you want to just make sure and keep lots of flour handy for your dough. because it can get sticky. And usually I just pat it out into a circle. And to get those flaky layers, you're going to take a third of your dough and just roll it right over. Take the other half and roll it over. Just going to kind of wrap it up nice and neatly. I flip my dough quite a bit just to make sure it's not sticking. Pat it out again, fold it in a third. And this also serves to knead the dough as well, so working with it doesn't hurt it in the beginning. I usually do the third trick. Usually try to do it 3 or 4 times. The more times the better. If you have a rolling pin, you can just go ahead and roll it out. If you don't have a rolling pin, you can pat it out. That's perfectly fine. It will take you a little bit longer, but you can then safely say that your biscuits were made with an extra touch of love. That was super corny, right? But that's okay. We can be corny in the kitchen. Take your biscuit cutter. I choose this size. I know it's kind of large, but I actually cut out and use my biscuits for breakfast biscuits. So I put egg, meat, and cheese on it, so I like them to be a little bit larger. And you're going to take, I know my hands are very floury. You're going to take your pan. I've already buttered the bottom of this pan. I just, take my pastry brush, dip it in butter all over the bottom. And then arrange your biscuits in the pan. It's okay if they touch. If you use a round pan and this more normal, smaller size biscuits, if they're touching, it actually will help them even rise a little bit more. So the scrap dough that's left, I'm going to work it back together. And I'm just going to fold it over a couple of times really quick, just so it will cut very nicely and it will be very easy to work with. Let's stamp out my last biscuit. I've got more biscuits to make, so I'm going to save this. But you can always make a little fun scrap biscuit with it and use it. Brush the top of your biscuits with the butter. And it's okay to be pretty liberal with it. If you want real nice buttery biscuits, if you just want a little butter, just put a little bit of butter on it. Okay, so that's good to go. We're going to put these in the oven, and hopefully the biscuits that I put in a moment ago will be ready. And they are ready. And there we have it. Flaky, fluffy buttermilk biscuits. I'm going to clean up this mess in just a moment. Get one of these out so I can actually show you. There you have it. Warm, flaky, fluffy buttermilk biscuits. You can't smell it in here, but it smells amazing. I have a cake on the oven from a cake order earlier. So again, there are your biscuits. The secret is very cold buttermilk, very cold flour, and very cold butter. Have a great day. I hope this has helped.